I
We are live. I'm really excited to have Linda Baker here today. Linda is a good friend and definitely not a stranger to the voltage control community. She's been at the conference, spoke at the conference, and been on the podcast. So happy to be with you again today, Linda, and excited to chat.
Same here. Same here.
Excellent. So we were just talking about the solstice and the pending New Year's and how that can bring about renewal. And let's dig in a little bit more here and how that can impact meetings and how we show up in meetings, and even just how is it just what's this renewal all about?
Well, I think as I was saying before we got on that I think that the notion of opportunity is present in every meeting that one facilitates. And I think that's what New Year's resolutions are about. That's what, people saying Happy New Year, good riddance to the old year. I mean, this whole sense that there's a change, there's an opportunity for change. And I think that's what happens in every meeting. Opportunity.
Yeah, and can we lean in and design for that opportunity? So it's just like we'd make plans for New Year's and be really intentional and considerate about how we're going to celebrate. How can we lean into that opportunity, that moment that we know that's going to exist in every meeting?
Well, I think that for me at least, part of it is how do we have the faith, if I can say that, or the belief, the
Mm,
understanding that that's true. And how do you communicate that to your clients, to your group? To
yes.
that my experience over my career, when I facilitated meetings, when I did career counseling with business students, is that my belief that you had possibility, even my parenting, my belief that you have possibility translates and communicates and inspires people to say there is possibility. So even in a meeting sense, people who may be struggling with a problem, struggling with dynamics, struggling with the finances, struggling with their
Mm,
whatever they're struggling with, this sense and coming in with a belief that there's an opportunity here, there's a possibility. You can communicate that as a consultant. You can communicate that as another human being. Does that make sense? I feel like I kind of got on a riff there, but I want to make sure it communicated to you.
100% it makes sense. I think one of our tenants with any of the sessions we drive and what we try to underscore as you love the term operating agreements, but one of the things we love to talk about is emphasizing possibility. So rather than just focusing on what's going to go wrong or what we've done in the past, I mean, that can help inform us. We can appreciate those things, but where's that? If we can focus and appreciate the possibilities, that we can unlock so much.
Yeah, one of the things just occurred to me is, as you may know, I think I use a lot of the technology of participation, ICA's methodology. And what we talk about in our strategic planning is not gaps or necessarily problems, but blocks or contradictions.
Mm,
And those contradictions are things that we also hold. In other words, there may be challenges, there may be blocks or contradictions, but there are things that we do that hold those in place. So it empowers people to recognize that while there may be things coming from the outside in one's environment, like in life, there is also lots that we control individually, that
mm.
organization controls, that a team controls. So what is it that you manage? And how do you take, I don't know, agency or take control of what you can change?
Yeah, or just maybe let things evolve and kind of unravel, or kind of what's that inevitable outcome that wants to unfold, and can we let that happen rather than intentionally trying to change it?
Well, I think I've talked to you about this before, this notion that a good facilitator doesn't add things into the mix, but figures out a way to clear the way so that natural tendencies or people know that they cannot accomplish alone what they need to work with others to accomplish. So while they may hate meetings and they crave community, they also know that we need each other. So how do we leverage that?
Yeah, I love that concept of craving community but hating meetings. And I want to come back to your choice of the word clear. Facilitators clear the way. And I think that's fascinating. What type of clarity?
Well, I think when I say clear the way, some of it is a mindset. I think it's the mindset of, spontaneously just answering that question, I think about, I have an attitude of curiosity. So if I'm curious and I think that there's something standing in the way in an environment, I can say, I'm sensing something standing in the way, and check that out. Is that true? Are other people seeing that? Am I just seeing that? Or what might be standing in the way of you moving forward?
Yeah.
What's preventing you from? So in other words, an acknowledgement that there is something that's blocking, if you will, but not focusing on some clever or fun activity, but being intentional about partnering with a client to see how to remove what those blocks are, or testing to see if there is a block. And if there is, partnering with them to say what might be keeping you from being successful.
I think almost 80% of the time, if not more, it's about jargon or metaphor where people aren't aligned, or they're using it as a shortcut, but it's getting in the way of them having some true understanding of each other. And I've found that as even before I even called myself a facilitator, being in meetings with folks and collaborating and just hitting the pause button and saying, hold on for a second. Are we sure that we know what we're saying? Are we agreeing here?
Yeah, it's as simple as agreeing on what important words mean.
Yeah.
I mean different things. Go ahead.
Sorry. I think you and I both know Terrence Metz, and I don't necessarily use all the tools. As you know, I love picking and choosing from all sorts of different methodologies, and he's got this really interesting definition tool, which I always found fascinating. And the group talks about what it means to be that thing, and then they talk about what it means to not be that thing. And so you can look at these two lists of what are the characteristics or qualities of being that, whatever that word is, and then the things that it's not. And then through that discussion, you can kind of you can even look at the Venn diagram. Okay, what things wound up in both lists, or how do these two lists help qualify and distinguish? And I've found that it's such a simple little tool. You can not even plan to do it, but just have it and pull it out when you need it.
It's interesting that you bring that up about a technique. I remember in the very early days when I first started facilitating professionally, just being able to, on a flip chart or in a public view, being able to say, somebody just raised this. What is this? Can we get a definition of this word?
Yeah.
Or working with clients, especially in strategic planning, that's the greatest, because there are a lot of different definitions for the word mission.
Yes. What's the difference between a mission and a vision?
vision, goals, objectives.
Yes.
But in the 25 years that I've been doing strategic planning, I realized that you can't assume anything when you engage with a group that your words mean the same. So it's helpful to just say, let's just write that down. So mission is what you do every day that helps you get to your vision, or about, and just literally capturing that. And it's not as I would say, rocket surgery, to understand that if everybody's literally on the same page, looking at those words, to be able to say, oh, that's what you mean? Oh, no, that's
Yeah,
not.
imagine how poorly a strategic planning session will go if you and I have different definitions of mission. It's like, how will expectations be met? It's impossible.
Well, imagine how challenging it is to launch into, not to use the rocket surgery metaphor too far, but to launch into a strategic planning session without clarifying that as the consultant working with a team.
Yeah.
And why, before you even get to the first break, things are going miserably. And it's going miserably because a block is that people had a different understanding. They were all happy to do a good job. They were all inspired to do well, and they were motivated. And it was a block that you could have removed, which is offering the opportunity to clarify what important words mean.
Yeah, to me, that's the difference between a facilitator and consultants. Consultants will come in with their predefined definitions, their tools, their kind of structure and methodology for getting to the strategic results. Whereas a facilitator will come in and they'll understand what kind of definition do you carry for mission, and what outcomes are you hoping to seek? Let's try to get there.
Well, the only distinction I would make is that the notion that I use the word consultant because sometimes I think it's important to emphasize that a facilitator is a process consultant, or as my colleagues in Canada would say, a process consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I have a responsibility as a process consultant to be able to say, what have you done in the past? Maybe how did you create this strategic plan in the past? What do you have in place? What do you want to accomplish? And then be able to say, these are some of the tools that I've used. How do they work? Don't they work? But I feel like to some degree, I am a consultant, but not a content consultant.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's some blurry lines, right? Like we often have to consult, and we often have to, and when people come to us, they are looking for, if they want us to facilitate for them, we are providing, consulting services. I think when I look at purely what a classic consultant does, which comes in and provides answers, ideally we're consulting on the process, but once the process is chosen, then we fully put on our facilitator hat and we back off and we let the team emerge. We're not a member of the team, so we shouldn't be.
We're not about the content for sure. Yeah, no, I think you and I are on, if I can use another metaphor, the same page.
Sure. Okay. So, here's something. I so love this. Sorry, I got distracted. I'm going to come back to my point here in a second, but Steph did make sure to point out that this is a proper fireside chat because Linda is at a fireside. So thank you, Steph. Accurate observation. Okay, so last thing I want to talk about is you mentioned flip charts, and I happen to have one right next to me. It usually doesn't fall on camera, and it's gathering a lot of dust. I used to lug this thing around and buy refills for it and show up and mark all over it and stick them on the walls and run around and generate a lot of garbage. And last night, yesterday, I got my Oculus and I was trying it out, and I went on the spatial, and lo and behold, flip charts are back. I gotta say, it was somewhat intuitive, but I'm still trying to learn how to manipulate the Post-its in space and whatnot. So we'll see. I think there's might be a little bit more time. The hardware is now affordable, but it's a little bit of a learning curve moving around the space and trying to write stickies. But it was pretty phenomenal to be in a virtual space, seeing flip charts and stickies, and it's
not Second Life. This is now Third Life.
That's right. Yeah. I think we might have to wait for Fourth Life though, because I'm not sure clients are gonna be able to jump in and start, collaborating immediately. But the future, I saw the future last night.
Wow, I'm looking forward to you demonstrating that. I'd pay extra to come to the next podcast just to see that in action.
Yeah, for sure. It'll happen. I recorded a little video last night. In fact, I think I hit the live stream button and I didn't go on my Facebook profile to see it. So I make a note to go check that out.
Note to self.
Yeah. Excellent.
So, I was going to ask you about, you naturally are leaning into opportunities and possibilities for the new year. Just now we started this conversation with opportunities and possibilities. And I was wondering, I was sort of going to turn the tables and ask you, what are you seeing as some of the opportunities and possibilities for the new year?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, here, I'll show you. The fact that this is self-contained and no wires and $300, I think it's a game changer. And it's fully Wi-Fi enabled, and I see teams starting to collaborate in those spaces just differently. And I haven't fully dove into all the software options, but I'm really excited about that potential. I think we're going to see the rise of hybrid in 2021. People aren't going to want to skip the workshop just because they can't travel. And we're going to have to design experiences that support all those needs. And so that people don't feel like a second-class citizen. And I've already heard stories of students that talk about, if their teacher is, if they're remote and the teacher's remote, they have a better experience. If they're in the classroom, the teacher's remote, they notice that it's a degraded experience. If they're in the classroom and the teacher's remote, there's a degraded experience. So if you're not in the same place as the facilitator, there's a noticeable degradation in experience. And how can we lean in to design that? There's going to be software that starts to help address this problem. There's going to be hardware potentially as well. So I'm excited to see how all these things converge and how they develop throughout 2021. And also really excited about our conference we have coming up, where we're experimenting with some different ways to approach virtual conferences, and lots of learning and lots of experimentation.
Am I going to get a raise because I gave you an opportunity to plug the conference?
Yeah, we're gonna give you an affiliate code, and we'll
great.
A special little gift.
Well, I want to make sure that I underscore something before we close, and that is that while there's lots of technology and there's lots of amazing opportunities in terms of change, I want to underscore that basic core facilitation competencies, values, the notion of having a mindset, that there are some core principles of how you show up working with other human beings, and that's not going to go away. And I think I want to underscore that I think it's going to be even more important because what I think we're finding out from even the examples you just gave, Douglas, is that it's easy to miss the nuance of relationship when we're not in face-to-face environments. And
Right.
we're going to need to be sure that we know how to be human with one another. And I think that's going to be critical. So I want to underscore the core competencies of facilitation and how one hones them, keeps them, and practices them.
You know, Linda, that I love that sentiment, and we we often have clients ask us for virtual, meeting training or virtual collaboration training. I mean, they come to us with various different descriptions of this, like whether they call it facilitation or meetings or whatever. They're just wanting to have better collaboration, better connection in these virtual interactions. And the thing we always come back to is, look, we can show you the tools. We can definitely help you get past that stuff. But if that's all we do, it's not going to serve you for the long run, because those tools are going to change. Those tools are going to get new features. There's going to be more to lean into. But if we teach you the fundamentals of good collaboration and good human connection, then that will fix the underlying problems that you had in your interactions anyway. But you didn't notice it because you've been so accustomed to like bad interactions in person, and now you have bad interactions on virtual, and you think it's all because of virtual.
Yeah, I remember, I think I might have shared this with you, that that being, for example, dysfunctional face-to-face, you can be as dysfunctional online.
Yep.
When I first started doing this, using technology back in the group where in the last century, people thought it was really, exciting to be able to be anonymous in a meeting. And all I kept thinking was, now, how is this helping? So we can now we can even take less responsibility for
Yeah.
how we're contributing to the problem. Not sure.
Yeah. It's interesting. I hear I hear people. I think both. It's a tool, right? There are moments where anonymity is great. There are moments where we want accountability, and the tools have to let us decide. And I don't. In the virtual world, we're not quite there yet. There's some stuff that's been done, but there's lots more to do. And anyway, I want to stop myself because we're over, and I think you and I could go on for a long time. We've done it many times, so I'm gonna have to close this off here. Linda, it was a lot of fun chatting with you, and want to just hear I just want to send you off with a big dose of gratitude, and to say that I'm glad you're warmed by a fire and supported by your community and your family. And I hope that 2021 treats you well.
Back at you, brother.